We had discussions with people at USDA, ARS, it's the Agricultural Research Service, and there's a forage lab at Logan, Utah. It's on Utah State University campus, but it's a federal lab. And those people are whiz-bangers with perennial grasses. They have geneticists and agronomists and all kinds of great people there. And so we visited with them, and they helped us pick out these grasses. And I put the first one as a native grass. Everybody talks about, whoa, native grass, that's a great thing. Let's do a native grass thing. So we included in this mixture a Great Basin wild rye, a slender wheatgrass, a blue bunch wheatgrass, and western wheatgrass. And then the buzzword, when you say biofuels, automatically your head goes to switchgrass. And I've worked with switchgrass. I have a pretty good data set with switchgrass from several years ago, where I did research at Fruta and at Meeker and at Hotchkiss. And at Fruta, switchgrass does really, really well. It's impressive, but it takes a different mentality to grow a warm season grass than a cool season grass that we're all used to. So we've included this. I expect at Fruta it could do pretty well, and we included 2 varieties, and I have a reason for that, and if you want to talk about that later, we can. I'm skeptical that it will do well at higher elevations where you have a shorter growing season and colder winters. I think there's a good possibility it'll freeze out, but hence the reason for doing the research. I've included a single species, tall fescue. The reason I did it, we talk about seed, it's widely available, farmers are familiar with it, it's easy to grow, it's productive, it's been around a long time, it's very competitive against weeds. Maybe it would work all by itself. We want to find that out. And then I have this introduced pasture mix. That means that these varieties are not native to the United States. They've been introduced from other countries way back when. And I put a little alfalfa in with that. This over time has been a very productive pasture mix, and it's things that farmers are familiar with. They know how to grow this kind of a mix, and so it would be easy for them to adopt this kind of a mixture. For factor 2, these 4 input levels, we're going to look at something where we just kind of throw it out there and see what it does on its own. Number 2, we're looking at sustainable inputs, and we're going to define that, and we're in the process of defining what that is. And number 3 is low commercial inputs, and then 3 is low commercial inputs, and then number 4 is high commercial inputs. And we're in the process of defining what those are going to be, and they will be different for the different sites. And you'll see those sites here in just a minute. The study is going to include 3 locations, one at Fruta, one just over here at the City of Rifle, their new wastewater treatment facility. It's right there close to their treatment facility. We planted it last fall. I drove by and took a quick look this morning, and it looks really quite good. You'll see a picture of it here in a minute. We have a little work to do to improve some of the stand where we had some low levels and we had some ponding where it didn't come up, but that can be taken care of. And we'll do that this spring. And then at Flux Farm, we planted that last summer, and we encountered some problems. We're going to remedy those. We had some perennial weed problems we had to get under control. We had some rodents that we had to evict, and then we're going to change the irrigation system there. I'm going to skip over this one. I could spend some time on this. You know, producing feedstock, processing it, getting it to market. I've indicated it's complex and it's complicated. We got a lot of work to do, and we need your help to do it. This is the Carbondale site. It's a nice site. It's a beautiful area. The soil's nice. We think we got that under control. We'll plant that this spring. This device right here is called the Giddings Soil Sampler. We've sampled, or will sample, each of the sites to get baseline data for all of the soil parameters for organic matter and nitrogen and carbon and those sorts of things. I have some of that data for Carbondale and for Fruta. We have to get it for Rifle yet. This is the little cone planter that we used to plant with. Very simple, but it works really well. And that's Morgan out there checking to make sure I did my job. At Rifle, we had some struggles there, and my hat is off to Charlie Stevens and his folks. They pitched in and made things happen. We had a very, very poor system. This is a reclaimed site from mine tailings from way back when. It was just really tough. We had to get rocks out of there, and once we got the rocks out of there, we didn't have any soil, so he found some and brought some in, and then we came up with this tractor, and we leveled it and got it ready, and then we planted it, and we got it established, and it's coming along quite well. I'm quite pleased. But like I said, we got to do just a little bit more work there. This is the Fruta site. It's up and going. This is late fall, and you can see where the paper sacks are at. I harvested them, then I took a grab sample, and we used that for various things, for moisture, and then that was sent on. I ground it, and it was sent on to Fort Collins to our ARS collaborators there, where they did some carbon and nitrogen work on it. This is just a little bit of data. For harvesting, we're looking at moisture content, we're looking at yield, dry tons per acre, and then I did a weediness rating. Right off the start, no surprise, this introduced mix just did really well. I didn't expect to see much from switchgrass. It takes a while for it to get established, and you have to be a little bit patient with that, but it should come along okay, I hope. We'll find out. So a little bit of data there. We have other opportunities. Morgan talked about cactus. He's the one that talked me into this. I resisted that, but he's a good talker, so finally I caved in, and we got a permit from BLM, and we went up and did some native collections. We had some collections already at the research center. We moved those over into this area. They did amazingly well in one season. I was very impressed at how well they did. Can we take cactus and put it into agriculture and make it work for biomass? I don't know. I've got to hurry. I'm almost done, I think. There's other possibilities too. Hybrid poplar. I've grown hybrid poplar at the research center in a study and published the work on it. There's possibilities there. So there are other options. We have great collaborators. I mentioned them. You're going to hear from Catherine Keski here in just a little bit. 2 ARS scientists at Fort Collins. They're great collaborators, and I've mentioned the people at the 4-H lab at Utah State. We need more funding, and we're scrambling to try to find more funding, and these are my numbers and mine alone that I come up with. It could take about $2.5 million to take us over 5 years. These are the kind of things that places we're going to look for those dollars. And this is looking ahead. We'll get all these 3 biomass sites, research sites established and producing this year. We're going to look for additional funding. We want to engage and invite other participants into our consortium. We want to engage industry and invite them to join with us and help us. One of the critical things that we're doing now is, of course, to get the pilot plant up and going, but we also need an analytical procedure for converting biomass to butanol mixed alcohols. And I'm in the process of talking with some of my colleagues. We're going to get in with NREL and see what they've got, and we got some other colleagues around the country that we're going to engage and communicate with. And then just a quick thought that's really important that you should know about. These ARS scientists at Logan, Utah, they are specifically designing grasses for biomass production. They're doing that right now. As soon as those become available, we're plugged into that, and we're going to bring those grasses to western Colorado and begin evaluating them. So we could have the latest and greatest here for us to look at. With that, I am done, and I'm more than happy to take some questions.
So I know your minds are buzzing and ready to ask and comment.
Okay, come on. Somebody's got to ask me a question.
If you're going to do a mixed different plants, are you going to evaluate each individual species in that mix so that you can see some places will do better with one than others?
Yes, and that is correct. Over time, one of those species may drift out of that mixture and another one may dominate. So yeah, we want to do that. We want to see how those mixtures vary over time.
And from place to place?
From each of the 3 sites?
Yeah, well, if you get for futures, if you get a good mix, will the efficiency or the yield be better or worse depending upon the soils, or are you going to custom blend something else?
Well, there's no doubt. We can't research everything, and these 3 sites we tried to pick things that are fairly representative of the region. Fruit is a low valley, longer growing season. Rifle's a little shorter. and Carbondale's shorter still, and they're in different soils. So that should give us a pretty good data set to guide people what may work on their farm and ranch. We're not going to know everything. We just can't do that in research, but it should help guide us.
You mentioned that agricultural residues aren't viable because you're not returning the nutrients back to the soil.
Where are you? I can't see. Oh, okay.
So what's your plan on returning nutrients back to the soil with this process?
Okay, he said, what's our plan for returning nutrients back to the soil? I'm glad you brought that up, Nick. In this kind of a production system, here's how things should work. You plant this stuff and you grow it, and unlike we're used to doing, we say, okay, we get it up and we starts into the seed head and we cut it, and then we let it grow up and we cut it, and we let it grow up and we cut it. We try to get as many cuttings as we can. That's not what we're going to do. We want to put it on marginal land, low inputs, let it grow up, not cut it till way into the fall after a freezing event has occurred, so the plant is triggered to retranslocate, reabsorb, and move those essential nutrients back into the root system so that they will be there for another season. Rather than cut them off and haul them away, we want that plant to reabsorb, retranslocate back into the root system, all that it will do. It's not going to be 100% efficient. We'll have to supply something, but maybe the soil can release things over time to kind of balance that. A little different mentality than what we're used to. Back here.
You mentioned poplars, and it triggered a thought about agroforestry or potential. I think mostly you're talking about agronomy and grasses, but of course 600-pound gorilla is the forest sector, and I know that's not what we're talking about mostly here. But I'm wondering if what you do see in terms of conversations with the Forest Service or others, what potential they see within forest lands or agroforestry, if there's a tree component in any of this.
Yeah, I hope you heard that. You know, what's our thoughts about agroforestry or you know, there's all this beetle kill. I know there's folks, I had a conversation via email and on the phone. There are folks out there that are thinking about this. It has potential, there's no question about it. Can we do agroforestry and grow hybrid poplars around western Colorado? Yes. I think I've shown that in my research. It may have a niche. We'll just have to see how that fits in over time. Morgan?
Yeah, maybe I can address that a little bit more. Flux Farm is also involved in some research with the Forest Service and with some other nonprofits, Up Valley for the Forest, Aspen Global Change Institute, Community Office of Resource Efficiency. And we got a grant from the Colorado Governor's Energy Office to address those exact issues. We have a simultaneous research scoping project to really look at some forestry biomass and see how we can integrate that in as well. But this is it's a little separate.
There are organizations that are also looking at perennial grasses as food sources. Is there any potential in the biomass species that you're looking at, or kind of double dipping, where you would get a significant seed head plus have the potential of using the cellulose part of the plant for fuel?
Okay, his question was, do we have grass species that we could use for dual purpose for biomass and for food sources? Short answer is no, but I like what you're saying. Yeah, I know we'll think about that. Great comment.
The Land Institute in Kansas has been doing research for a number of years on perennial grasses as a source of food for perennial agriculture. So
I'll have to grow another 3 stomachs, won't I, to be able to digest it? Okay.